When my brother lost his job, my fiancée said, "Tell him to figure it out." Later, when her dad asked me for a loan, I gave her the exact same answer. I, 32M, have always been the steady one in my family. I'm not rich, but I worked hard, built a decent career in IT, and bought a small townhouse 2 years ago. My parents passed away early, so in many ways, I've been a mix of older brother and parental figure for my younger brother, 29M, Alex. Alex is a good guy, smart, creative, funny, but life's been harder for him. He's had stretches of unemployment, a business venture that collapsed after his partner bailed, and a bad breakup that left him starting from scratch. I've always told him, "Don't worry, you'll land on your feet," because I genuinely believe that. 3 months ago, Alex called me sounding broken. He'd been laid off again. His company downsized, and he was one of the unlucky ones. His voice on the phone was flat, like someone who's out of fight. He admitted he didn't know how he'd pay rent, and that he was terrified of getting evicted. I didn't think twice. I said, "Pack your essentials. Come stay here until you figure things out." That night, I told my fiancée, 31F, Sophie. We've been together for almost 3 years, engaged for one. Sophie is ambitious, organized, the kind of person who color codes her planner. She comes from a family where appearances matter. Her parents have a nice house. Her dad runs a contracting business. Her mom's in a social club. When I told her Alex would stay with us a little while, she sighed and asked, "How long is a little while?" Because, honestly, I don't want him on our couch for months. I said, "Just until he finds something. He's not the type to freeload." She frowned, then said, "He can't just leech off of you forever. You're not his parent. Tell him to figure it out. It's not my responsibility." That word, my, stung. It wasn't our home, our space, our bills. It was her versus me. I let it go. I told her it wouldn't be long, and she grudgingly agreed. But the comment stuck with me. My parents always drilled into us. Family takes care of each other. Sophie's attitude felt foreign, cold. When Alex moved in, he immediately tried to pull his weight. He offered to chip in for groceries, even though I knew his bank account was empty. He washed dishes without being asked. He fixed a leaky faucet I'd been ignoring for months. Honestly, he was easier to live with than some roommates I'd had in my 20s. But Sophie wasn't happy. At first, it was little remarks, said half joking. "So, is he paying for the water bill since he's showering every day here? Did he contribute to those groceries? Or was that on us?" I brushed it off. Told her, "He'll pay me back when he can. He's job hunting nonstop." The tension simmered. One evening, I came home to find Alex at the dining table, laptop open, applications spread everywhere. Sophie was on the couch, scrolling on her phone. She didn't even look up when I walked in, just muttered, "Your brothers turned our place into a co-working space." Her tone wasn't playful. It was disdainful. That night in bed, she said, "I hope you're not expecting me to babysit him when you're at work." I didn't sign up for that. I told her nobody was asking her to. She just rolled her eyes and turned over. I kept trying to reassure myself. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe she's protective of her space. But the way she phrased things, the constant, "not my problem" tone, was starting to carve little cracks in how I saw her. Still, I kept my mouth shut. My brother needed stability, not drama. Then, about a month in, the tables turned. Sophie's dad, who owns a small contracting business, had a client stiff him on a huge invoice. He suddenly couldn't make payroll. Sophie pulled me aside, voice urgent. "Dad's in trouble. Could you help him out? Just a short-term loan until he gets paid." And in that moment, all I could hear were her own words, playing back in my head like a recording. "Tell him to figure it out. It's not my responsibility." I looked her in the eye and, as calmly as I could, said, "Tell him to figure it out. It's not my responsibility." The silence afterward felt like a bomb went off in slow motion. Her eyes widened, her mouth dropped open. Then she snapped, "How could you be so heartless? That's my family. He's not some freeloader on a couch. He's my father." I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just repeated softly, "Those were your exact words about Alex." Her face went pale, then red. She stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. I sat there, staring at the wall, realizing this wasn't just about my brother anymore. This was about her definition of family, and how it only extended as far as her own blood. And that realization scared me more than the slammed door. The next morning, Sophie acted as if nothing had happened. She made coffee, hummed while scrolling her phone, even kissed me on the cheek before work. It was eerie, like the previous night had been erased. But the silence between us was different now. That night, she tried to reframe the conversation. Look, I might have been harsh about your brother, but it's not the same. My dad's worked his whole life. He's built something. He deserves support. Alex is just floating. Her words hit me like a dull hammer. Alex wasn't floating. He was drowning, and he had the humility to ask for help. Meanwhile, her father, with his decades of connections and assets, was suddenly my responsibility because it was her family. I didn't argue. I just said, family is family. It can't only count when it benefits you. She didn't answer. The weeks that followed turned into a slow grind. Alex found a part-time job to keep some cash flow while applying to better positions. He slipped me cash for groceries, no questions asked. Meanwhile, Sophie's resentment grew sharper, but not directly toward him, toward me. One night, I caught her on the phone with her mom. The walls in my townhouse are thin, and I heard fragments. He's choosing his brother over me. He won't help Dad. Can you believe that? My stomach twisted. It wasn't just a disagreement anymore. She was actively spinning the story. I decided to quietly start documenting. I began saving text exchanges where she berated Alex, or where she compared my lack of support for her father to some moral failing. I didn't do this out of paranoia, but from a creeping awareness. People rewrite history when they feel cornered. Things came to a head 2 weeks later at Sunday dinner. We'd gone to her parents' house, and I immediately felt the shift. Her dad barely looked at me. Her mom's smile was too stiff. Sophie, all sweetness, leaned across the table and said, "So, have you reconsidered helping Dad out? I mean, family sticks together, right?" It wasn't a question. It was a public trap. I put my fork down and replied evenly. Funny, that's exactly what I said about Alex. The silence that followed was suffocating. Her father coughed. Her mother changed the subject, and Sophie's hand tightened around her wine glass so hard I thought it would shatter. On the drive home, she exploded. Why would you humiliate me like that? My parents think you're cruel now. Do you want them to hate you? I gripped the steering wheel, keeping my voice calm. You set me up. You wanted me to fold under pressure. That's not partnership. That's manipulation. She stared out the window the rest of the ride. That night, I sat at my desk and did something I never thought I'd do. I made a folder labeled just in case. I added screenshots of texts, voicemails, and even notes about conversations. It felt cold, clinical, but necessary. Because the truth was dawning on me. Sophie didn't see family as a shared concept. She saw it as a hierarchy, hers above mine. The following week, Alex got an interview for a solid job in marketing. He was nervous, pacing the living room the night before, rehearsing answers. Sophie came downstairs, glanced at him, and muttered, "God, I hope he nails it. Because I want my house back." Alex pretended not to hear. I saw the flicker of hurt in his eyes, though. Later, he pulled me aside and said, "Look, man, if this is messing up your engagement, I'll figure something else out." I shook my head. "Don't you dare. This isn't about you. It's about her." 2 days later, he got the job. A good one. A stable one. We celebrated with takeout and cheap champagne. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Sophie didn't celebrate. She offered a stiff congratulations, then changed the subject to her dad's lingering financial stress. And that's when I realized something. Even if Alex left, even if every inconvenience disappeared, Sophie's resentment wouldn't. Because it was never about space or bills or timing. It was about control. Control over how family was defined. Control over where loyalty should lie. And I wasn't willing to hand her that control. The distance between us grew. She started staying later at work, sleeping in the guest room after arguments, posting passive-aggressive quotes on social media. Sometimes you realize love is just another word for sacrifice. Our mutual friends started asking if everything was okay. One even pulled me aside and said, "Sophie's telling people you abandoned her dad." That true. That was the breaking point. I didn't deny it. I didn't defend myself. I just said, "Ask her what she said about my brother first." The look on my friend's face told me everything. Sophie had been rewriting the script, just like I feared. And I knew, then, that the engagement wasn't just in trouble. It was over. Update 1. Update 1. I broke off the engagement. It wasn't impulsive, though from the outside, I'm sure it looked that way. I spent weeks thinking, replaying every conversation, every moment where Sophie's words revealed who she really was. And when I compared it to what I knew I needed from a life partner, empathy, consistency, shared values, the gap was too wide to ignore. The breaking point came one Saturday morning. Alex had already moved into his new apartment, and Sophie, almost triumphant, announced over coffee, "Well, now we can get back to normal." I asked her what she meant. She said, "You know, no more strays. No more divided loyalties. Just us. Divided loyalties." That was her takeaway from me helping my only brother. I set my mug down and told her calmly, "I can't marry someone who treats family like an inconvenience. Who thinks compassion is a one-way street? It's over." At first, she laughed, like I told a bad joke. Then she realized I was serious. Her face went blank, then crumpled. "You can't be serious. After everything I've invested in us." I didn't respond. I just went to the bedroom, pulled out the small box with the ring receipt, and placed it on the counter. Her silence stretched across the room like static. The fallout came fast. Her mother called me 2 hours later, voice sharp as glass. "How dare you humiliate Sophie like this? After all she's done for you? She bent over backwards to fit into your small life. And this is how you repay her." I didn't argue. I simply said, "Family is supposed to go both ways." That's not what I had with her. Her mom hung up without another word. Her father tried a different tactic. He called the next day, calmer, almost pleading. "Son, marriages aren't about keeping score. You'll regret throwing this away over a misunderstanding. Sophie told us you refused to help me out of spite. That's not the kind of man I thought you were." This time, I didn't hold back. "And did she also tell you she called my brother a leech and said helping him wasn't her responsibility? Did she mention that I repeated her exact words back when she asked me to bail you out?" Silence. Then a gruff, "That's different." I hung up. Word traveled fast. Within a week, half our mutual friends knew. Some sided with her. People who only heard her version. Others messaged me privately, saying they understood, that they'd noticed her cold streak long before. The hardest part wasn't the gossip. It was the logistics. Returning the ring. Canceling the venue we'd reserved with a deposit. Untangling the small web of shared accounts, bills, and plans we'd built over the past 3 years. I approached it like a project. I made lists, spreadsheets, timelines. I kept all correspondence polite, direct, and written, no phone calls. If she texted something heated, I screenshotted and archived it. Not because I expected a lawsuit, but because I no longer trusted her narrative. Sophie oscillated between rage and begging. One night, she left a voicemail sobbing, saying, "Please, don't throw this away over one fight. I was just stressed. You're my future." 2 days later, a text. "You're heartless. You'll regret this. No one will ever love you like I did." I didn't reply to either. Meanwhile, my own family's reaction was relief. Alex especially. He pulled me aside and said, "Man, I was afraid I'd ruin things for you. But now I see it wasn't me. It was her. Thank you for not throwing me under the bus." It hurt to think how close I'd come to internalizing her narrative. If I hadn't drawn that line, maybe I would have spent years sacrificing people I love just to keep her satisfied. So here I am, a month post-breakup. The deposits are lost, the ring refunded, the friends divided. Sophie's still posting vague, sad quotes online, probably angling for sympathy. But my apartment feels lighter. My phone is quieter. And when I see my brother settling into his new job, smiling for the first time in months, I know I made the right choice. Final update. It's been almost a year since I ended things with Sophie, and life feels like a completely different chapter now. At first, I'll admit, there were nights when I questioned myself. The apartment felt empty. The wedding deposits were a painful reminder, and I kept replaying old memories of when Sophie and I were good together. Breakups, even the right ones, still sting. But as the months passed, the clarity grew. Family first. My brother Alex has completely turned things around. He landed a stable job in IT support, and just last month, he moved into a bigger place with his girlfriend. He invited me over for dinner, and at one point he raised his glass and said, "Thanks for being the one person who never made me feel like a burden." I don't think he realizes how much that meant. Family feels closer now, not because we're perfect, but because there's no wedge of resentment driving us apart anymore. Rebuilding myself. One unexpected benefit of the breakup? Space. Real, quiet space in my life. I picked up hobbies I'd shelved during my relationship. I started running again, joined a local hiking group, even tried my hand at cooking more than the usual bachelor staples. I also began therapy, not because I felt broken, but because I wanted to understand why I'd tolerated Sophie's coldness for so long. My therapist helped me see that I'd been raised to keep the peace at my own expense, and that pattern made me vulnerable to partners who thrived on double standards. That realization was worth more than the lost wedding deposits. What happened to Sophie? I still hear about her sometimes, mostly through mutual friends or the occasional accidental scroll on social media. She rebounded quickly, started dating someone new within 2 months. Her posts are a mix of glamorous dinners and cryptic complaints. The last time a mutual friend mentioned her, they said she was frustrated that her fiancé, yes, already engaged again, wasn't ambitious enough. I wish her no harm. But I also recognize the pattern now. It was never really about me, or Alex, or even her dad. It was about control, about setting standards for others she didn't apply to herself. Moving forward, I won't lie, weddings still make me a little wistful. Seeing my friends walk down the aisle sometimes sparks that pang of, I should have been married by now. But then I remind myself, I was about to marry the wrong person. And choosing peace over appearances is the best decision I've ever made. For now, I'm not rushing. If I meet someone who values family, compassion, and mutual respect, I'll know. And if I don't, I'd rather stay single than ever compromise like that again. Looking back, I realized the breakup wasn't the loss of a fiancé. It was the start of reclaiming my values. And honestly, that's a better foundation for my future than any wedding could have been.